The handwriting on the wall. Figuratively, the expression means that some misfortune is impending. The familiar phrase comes from the book of Daniel. Daniel chapter 5, to be specific. Nebuchadnezzar died in 562 BC. 3 kings followed with short reigns. Nabonidus became king in 556 BC. He was often away from Babylon and appointed his son Belshazzar to reign in Babylon. The words of Daniel 5 begin this way, once I find Daniel. We're also going to be referring to Jeremiah's sermon. Daniel chapter 5. King Belshazzar made a great feast for 1,000 of his lords and drank wine in front of the 1,000. Belshazzar, when he tasted the wine, commanded that the vessels of gold and of silver that Nebuchadnezzar his father had taken out of the temple in Jerusalem be brought, that the king and his lords, his wives, and his concubines might drink from them. Then they brought in the golden vessels that had been taken out of the temple, the house of God in Jerusalem, and the king and his lords, his wives, and his concubines drank from them. They drank wine and praised the gods of gold and silver, bronze, iron, wood, and stone. So here's Belshazzar. The text indicates that Nebuchadnezzar was his father, but we know that there was some between, so a better translation is probably his predecessor, that Nebuchadnezzar was his predecessor. But here is Belshazzar. He holds this great feast. Can you imagine a banquet of 1,000 people? Talk about getting cold chicken at the end of the line. But anyway, they have this great feast. It takes place on October 12th, 539 BC. Now the Medes and the Persians had already defeated some Babylonian cities. Babylon itself was surrounded by the Persian army. Belshazzar decides to hold a great feast. Kind of an interesting thing to do when you're surrounded by foreign armies. But he holds this great feast, 1,000 people. He apparently thought he was safe in his city, that the city of Babylon was safe. Well, there was a massive supply of food, and the Euphrates River ran under the city wall to provide ample water. The city walls were sometimes as high as 75 to 100 feet, and they were thick enough for 4 chariots to run abreast along the top. It was a well-fortified city. There were towers for fighting and a great moat outside the walls. We notice that Belshazzar, in this great feast, decides, well, I'm going to show off here. And he has the vessels brought, the vessels that have been taken from the temple of God. And he drinks wine, and his guests drink wine from them. Notice that it says they drank wine and praised the gods of gold and silver, bronze, iron, wood, and stone. They praised all kinds of gods, but they didn't praise the right one. It is at that moment that we have the handwriting on the wall. Immediately the fingers of a human hand appeared and wrote on the plaster of the wall of the king's palace opposite the lampstand. And the king saw the hand as it wrote. Then the king's color changed, and his thoughts alarmed him. His limbs gave way, and his knees knocked together. The king called loudly to bring in the enchanters, the Chaldeans, and the astrologers. The king declared to the wise men of Babylon, whoever reads this writing and shows me its interpretation shall be clothed with purple and have a chain of gold around his neck, and shall be third ruler in the kingdom. Then all the king's wise men came in, but they could not read the writing or make known to the king the interpretation. Then King Belshazzar was greatly alarmed, and his color changed, and his lords were perplexed. Well, if I saw a hand detached from a body, writing something on the wall, I too would be alarmed. And here is Belshazzar. Now he's the king. He's powerful. But when he sees this, he has quite the experience. His color changed. You just see the blood kind of just go out of his face. He turns pale. And there he is. His knees are knocking together. You know that somebody is scared when that happens. In fact, he's weak-kneed. He's disturbed. So he calls for somebody to tell what this might mean. It's interesting that it's not so much that he's concerned that a hand appeared out of nowhere and wrote, but he's concerned about what the message is. Well, at this point, Daniel is about 80 years old, and it appears that he was no longer prominent among the king's counselors. He had been at one time. It is the queen who thinks about Daniel when this situation arises. She reminds him about Daniel. It'd be a good thing to send for Daniel. He's told the meaning of things in the past. And so Daniel comes in. Verse 13, he was brought in before the king. The king answered and said to Daniel, "You are that Daniel, one of the exiles of Judah, whom the king my father brought from Judah. I have heard of you, that the spirit of the gods is in you, and that light and understanding and excellent wisdom are found in you. Now the wise men, the enchanters, have been brought in before me to read this writing and make known to me its interpretation. But they could not show the interpretation of the matter. But I have heard that you can give interpretations and solve problems. Now, if you can read the writing and make known to me its interpretation, you shall be clothed with purple, and have a chain of gold around your neck, and shall be the third ruler in the kingdom." Belshazzar really had forgotten about the God that Daniel worshipped. Those before him had come to faith in that God. He had worshipped other gods. He says, "I've heard that what you can do. And if you can tell me the meaning of this handwriting on the wall, you will be rewarded." Well, Daniel just said, "You can keep your gifts for yourself. You can give the rewards to another. But I will read the writing to the king and make known to him its interpretation." He says, "O king, the Most High God gave Nebuchadnezzar your father kingship and greatness and glory and majesty. And because of the greatness that he gave him, all peoples, nations, and languages trembled and feared before him, whom he would be killed, and whom he kept alive." In other words, Daniel's saying, God gave this great power to Nebuchadnezzar. And for a while, Nebuchadnezzar gave God his proper place, but then he turned from God, turned back to his idols, trusted in himself. And for a while, he got to go out and live among the animals and eat grass. That would be a humbling experience for a king. That'd be a humbling experience for any of us. Well, here's Belshazzar, following in the unwise steps of his predecessor. He is worshiping false gods. he is even mocking the one true God by drinking wine out of the vessels from the temple. So Daniel tells the meaning. We go down to verse 24. Then from his presence the hand was sent, and this writing was inscribed. Here is the writing that was inscribed: many, many, tekel, and parson. This is the interpretation of the matter. Many, God has numbered the days of your kingdom and brought it to an end. Tekel, you have been weighed in the balances and found wanting. Perez, your kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and Persians. His days are numbered. That's quite the message for the handwriting on the wall. Your days are numbered. And this word is said twice for emphasis. You've been weighed. You haven't lived up to God's expectations. And then parson, divided. The kingdom will be divided and given to the Medes and Persians. Well, we read that the flow of the Euphrates River was diverted. They had a good supply of water coming in, but somebody out there put in a dam or whatever, diverted it. The water level went down, and went down to the point that the soldiers just walked under the wall without a fight. Didn't matter how big wide that wall was. They just walked in underneath it. There was no real defense, no effort to resist the enemy, no battle. And that very night, King Belshazzar was killed. Jeremiah from Jerusalem made predictions about Babylon almost 100 years earlier. Jeremiah chapter 50, a number of texts there. Jeremiah talks about an invader coming from the north, a coalition of nations. He speaks of the well-supplied storehouses and how all that food goes away. He talks about the towering fortifications. He talks about the river drying up. He talks about events occurring during a feast. In Jeremiah chapter 51, verse 8, he says, this happened suddenly. You can be the greatest kingdom in the world. You can be the greatest king in the world. And when God decides your reign is over, it's over. Belshazzar thought all was well. He even ignored the army surrounding the city. The handwriting on the wall for him was not good at all. We can avoid the handwriting on the wall in our lives by being faithful to God. There are times that people live their life ignoring God, and when things don't go well, they wonder why. Even when we follow God, we will have troubles. But we know that God is with us and that all will end